It's that time again. UFC 306 full card predictions. Dylan, are you excited?
Week out, and I've never been less excited for a pay-per-view.
3 good fights on the whole card. Looking forward to it.
At least there's a movie playing in the background.
What was that all about?
Yeah, there's going to be 90-second TikTok clips with Subway Surfers in the background.
We're going to start off with Raul Rosas Jr. because that's probably the only fight we care about on the prelims.
Had really never heard of most of the fighters on the prelims. So
yeah, that's the way it goes when you're trying to satisfy the Mexican and Abu Dhabi.
It's whatever.
I mean, you don't even have Brandon Moreno on this card.
Yeah, and he's fighting a month and a half later.
All right, enough waffle.
We did it last video, so if you want to hear us complain, go to our last video.
Exactly. So for Raul Rosas Jr., I think this is a bit of a layup for him. It's the Sphere card. You have to start this card off with a big win for the Mexican people.
But it's going to be like a round 2 submission win, which isn't going to get them like as hyped as a KO, but it'll do its job. Rosas Jr. minus 700 favorite. If he loses it, ooh.
I agree. I think it's going to be a submission, probably later rounds. Now, Dylan, I want your official prediction. Do we get a Chihuihuis?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
You can't have the Sphere card on Mexican Independence Day without a Chihuihui.
All right, and with that, let's move on. We're going to skip all the way to the main card. The first matchup on the main card opening up is going to be Ode Osborne. Obviously, everyone knows Ode Osborne, come on. He's the opener for the Sphere.
Household name.
Exactly. Ode Osborne versus Ronaldo Rodriguez.
Another household name, the guy that plays for Portugal.
Yeah, I put a picture of him up on screen in one of our later videos. I was like, I guarantee no one's ever seen this guy. Okay, who do you have for this first fight, Dylan?
I went with Ronaldo Rodriguez.
Ronaldo?
Yeah.
Oh, it is Ronaldo.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, it's CR7?
I think that this is going to be a relatively easy win, given that the odds are close. Like, it's supposed to be a close fight, but Osborne has been submitted twice in his last 2 fights, and Rodriguez is coming off of a submission win, and he has like 2 submission wins in his last 3 or 4 fights. So I think Rodriguez is going to sub Osborne here.
So Rodriguez is younger, but he does have way less reach. So that could be a disadvantage for him. He's on a 6-fight win streak, and he has the better strike accuracy. So I think if he can get on the inside and make it a little bit dirty boxing on the inside, I definitely think he can do some damage. There is definitely the potential for a submission as well. But I do think this one is surprisingly close for Rodriguez to be on a 6-fight win streak. I thought he would have been more of a favorite, and I also picked Rodriguez.
Yeah, I think that we're not giving you gambling advice, but I like Rodriguez. He's probably my second favorite pick as someone who's you're going to get good odds on.
All right, moving down the card, we have Daniel Zellhuber versus Esteban Ribovic. Dylan, who do you have for this fight?
I got Zellhuber. Who do you got?
I also have Zellhuber. I think he's taller, he's younger. He has an 8-inch reach advantage, which is massive, especially at these lower weight classes. But he does have less strike accuracy and less strikes per minute and less takedowns.
Yeah, both guys have only 1 loss in their career, but I'm personally just rocking with the Mexican golden boy, like he's an up-and-comer for the Mexican fight crowd. Him and Raul Rosas Jr. kind of the future of Mexican UFC and MMA. So I'm looking for him to get a big win here and kind of make himself maybe a potential household name.
Yeah, he needs a big win to get a little bit more known, and he could definitely gain a lot of fans off this card because there is going to be a lot of eyes on this card.
100%.
And I think that a little bit of home crowd advantage is going to actually do him well here.
I did take that into account with all of my predictions, is that I think that
the Mexicans do good with it.
There will be some hometown advantage here.
100%. I think in somewhere like the UK or Australia, there's a lot of pressure for those fighters, but I think the Mexicans really thrive off of it.
100%.
All right, again, moving down the card, our third fight of the night, the featured fight, we have Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopez. This is where things start to get exciting. Big matchup. It was supposed to happen on 303. Brian Ortega pulled out because he was feeling sick, and Diego Lopez ended up fighting Dan Ige on 2 hours notice at a catch weight of about 161 pounds. So this was originally supposed to happen. We never got to see it. I'm so glad that they rebooked it because this was one that we were all looking forward to. And somehow Brian Ortega is a decent underdog.
Brian Ortega, plus 162 underdog.
That's surprising.
For the guy that nearly submitted Volk.
Yeah, and yeah, he had Holloway fights, he had Volk fights. That's the only... Oh, he was injured against Yair, so I'm not counting that. So he's really only lost to Volk and Holloway, which are the two best featherweights.
Of all time.
Yeah, well, and Aldo, but... If you think about that compared to Diego Lopez's resume, where he just beat Dan Ige, Sadiq Youssef, and two other people who aren't in the rankings or close to the rankings even. So it's kind of a big shock to me that the ranked 12 guy is the favorite. I understand if it's like someone like Umar Nurmagomedov, who's undefeated and coached by Khabib. If he's a favorite going into a Sandhagen fight, okay, fine. But Diego Lopez, I mean, come on.
Yeah, so... At 303, I originally had Diego Lopez as my pick to win the fight. But as I've matured a little bit over the last couple of months and become a little bit more knowledgeable, you may say, I switched to Brian Ortega for this one. I think that Brian Ortega is going to sub Diego Lopez. I think it also helped that I rewatched all of Brian Ortega's wins and his fights. And
he's so good.
He's so good. That jiu-jitsu is world class.
He might have the best jiu-jitsu. Yeah.
Charles.
Yeah, Charles, but in that weight class,
in featherweight, I would say so.
Yeah,
so.
Definitely. And I also went with Brian Ortega. It's tough to say how he's going to get it done. If I had to pick, I think it's going to be by decision because Diego Lopez is also great on the ground. He has great jiu-jitsu and he coaches jiu-jitsu as well. So I think that he is just so knowledgeable on the ground and he knows how to get himself out of bad situations. So I think it is going to be difficult for Brian Ortega to sub him compared to someone like Volk, which he was super close to getting a guillotine. So I think that realistically, Diego Lopez is going to come out really strong in the first two rounds, probably win the first two rounds even. And then round 3, 4, and 5, I would have...
It's a 5-round fight?
Oh, it's only a 3-round fight.
I'll check right now.
No, it's 3. I mean, it's a feature fight. It's 3 rounds. It wouldn't be
5 unless it was like a world-class 5.
Dude. Oh, this changes things, man. I still think Brian Ortega is going to get it done by decision. But if this was a 5-round fight, I would have said he wins the last 3 rounds. Ooh. So he's going to have to start picking up the pace a little bit earlier if he wants to win.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I don't want to see Diego Lopez lose. No. I think he's a super fun, exciting fighter. But if he can make it close, he still moves up the rankings. And this loss doesn't look that bad because you're losing to the 3rd-ranked featherweight as the 12th-ranked guy.
Yeah, it's pretty much a win-win for Diego Lopez. And another reason I picked Brian Ortega is because if you asked me if Brian Ortega or Movsar Evloev would win, I would still pick Brian Ortega. And Movsar beat Diego Lopez already.
That is true.
In a close fight. And I think it was short notice for Diego Lopez. So it's really going to be a good matchup.
Do you think if Diego Lopez loses that he still comes out to coach Grasso?
That's a tight turnaround.
He said if he wins, he's going to come out and support her in her corner.
I think if it's not a KO loss, I do think if he loses decision, I think he'll come out and still coach. And if he wins, he will. But if he gets battered and KO'd, which is unlikely.
Yeah, I doubt that. I think that KO is the least likely outcome for a Ortega win.
Yeah.
I think Lopez, if Lopez wins, I could see it being a KO.
Yeah, I could see so as well. But I mean, he didn't get KO'd against Volk and he didn't get KO'd against Holloway. So it's like, is Diego Lopez really the guy to do it? Maybe not.
Who knows? Speaking of Alexa Grasso, we're on to the co-main event. The champion, Alexa Grasso, versus the number 1 contender, Valentina Shevchenko.
This is an interesting one because they've already fought twice. Mm-hmm. And the last one ended in a draw, very controversially. That 10-8 round, that was not a 10-8 round. So clearly, I don't know. There's so many conspiracy theories about judging and all that. I'm not going to say if it's rigged or not, but in my books, Valentina Shevchenko probably should have won that, even though it was super close. And I think, again, Sphere card, Mexican Independence Day, if it's close, it's not going to Valentina Shevchenko. No,
Dana's running down like Volk on short notice and telling those judges to give it to Grasso.
This one was a toss-up for me. Shevchenko's 36, so she's quite a bit older. Grasso's 31. But Shevchenko does have more takedown abilities. So I think in those closer rounds, I think if Shevchenko can get a takedown or two, depending on how, again, judging is so weird because we don't know how much they score for takedowns and how much they score for damage. But I think that if Shevchenko can get more takedowns to like swing some rounds, I think she could actually take this one.
So do you have Shevchenko?
Yeah, I have Shevchenko by decision. I think maybe a 3-2. Again, probably going to be controversial.
I think this is definitely gonna be a close fight. I have the opposite side of the spectrum. I have Alexa Grasso winning by decision. I just think that we're not in Mexico, but we're on Mexican Independence Day at the Sphere, UFC Noche, targeted at the Mexican audience. I just find it hard that the top Mexican fighter on this card would lose. You know, like, I really think that the hometown advantage is going to play a factor here, and we're going to see Alexa Grasso pull through and get this win and kind of end this rivalry.
Yeah, it's tough to say if Shevchenko's at the end of her career and maybe she hasn't been training as hard. Like, it's so hard to tell if these people who are 36, 37 still have that fire. Because some of them, like, I mean, Pereira, like, it feels like they're just gaining momentum. But Shevchenko feels like she might be declining a little bit.
Yeah, and if you've been in 3 straight title fights and...
It's brutal.
Yeah, and you haven't won the title out of those 3 fights, what really motivates you? Because then you're like, am I ever going to get back to the top?
Yeah.
What stops Shevchenko from, if she loses, retiring after this fight?
So I guess this fight is the one that's going to decide who wins our picks, right? Because we both have Ortega, we both have Rodriguez, and we both have Zellhuber.
Well, I have Merab in the next fight.
Right, of course you have Merab in the next fight. Sure you do. All right. And lastly, the main event for UFC 306, Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili. Dylan, who do you have for this fight?
Welcome to the Sugar Show, baby. It's Sean is the guy for this fight. And the biggest stage that we've ever seen in the UFC at the Las Vegas Sphere, Sean O'Malley was made for the Sphere, and he's going to get it done, likely by KO of Merab Dvalishvili.
Yeah, if he wins, I think it has to be a KO. Probably in the earlier rounds. I think he is such a sharpshooter, and if you look at all of Merab's last fights, he's gotten caught a couple times. So I think there's a big chance he gets caught again, but this time with better accuracy and more power. I think it has to go to Sean.
No one wants to end the Sphere card, which is already going to be tragically bad, with Merab holding the championship.
Yeah, and Merab is coming off wins against Cejudo, Jan, Aldo, and Moraes. Sean is coming off wins against Cheeto, Sterling, and Jan. So they both have a really good resume leading into this fight, both coming off of a lot of wins. So this is a massive fight because when you have 2 guys who are so high on confidence and feel like they can't lose, that's so exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be I'm going to say I'm going to be tense and a little bit anxious during the fight because I think it's going to look a little bit dominant for Merab. Like, there's going to be times where he's going to have Sean on the ground for a minute or 2 and you're going to be like, uh-oh, like, are we cooked?
Yeah.
But all it takes from Sean is 1 or 2 big strikes and it's over, you know?
Yeah, well, think about the Sterling fight. Second round starts, you're both on the feet again. And you get that distance right. You've seen some of their plays and the takedowns, and Sean snipes you.
Yeah, I think that Merab has to realize that they're going to start 5 rounds on the feet. So
because Merab isn't getting to finish.
Yeah,
let's be real.
It's going to be, you got to have this guy down for 25 minutes if you want to secure this win.
Yeah, and I think if it is a close scorecard, then I think Sean could also win it, just because the judges. But again, like, I don't see this going to decision.
Yeah, it could.
It's going to be round 2 KO for Sean.
It could go to decision. It could be where Merab just eats it like Cheeto kind of thing.
It's going to be interesting as well with the staff, though, because there's a lot of rumors going on. I mean, he had those stitches above his eye, which is a really bad place. Mm-hmm. He has something on his arm, which he says isn't staph, but everyone says that.
Looks like staph.
Yeah, and everyone says that. Islam said he didn't have anything, and then right after the fight, he's like, yeah, I had staph.
Yeah.
So it's like, you're not going to tell your opponent that you're taking antibiotics. That makes your gas tank horrible.
Yeah.
But if Merab doesn't have a gas tank for this fight, he has nothing. Mm-hmm. That's literally keeping his fight career alive.
Yeah, to be honest, we might have to see Merab pull out and we can get Volk on short notice to save the Sphere.
Dude, Volk making 135?
He's ready. He saw those staff pictures and he's cutting right now.
He might be. You never know. Or Danny Gay. Now let's move on to the biggest good surprise of the card. Dylan, who do you have for the biggest good surprise?
I got Ronaldo Rodriguez. I think he's going to submit Osborne early in this fight, and he's going to kind of be like, yeah, this is me. Like, my submission game, it's there. Who do you got as your good surprise?
My biggest good surprise is that unanimously, everyone loves the Sphere card. And it is one of the best pay-per-views, if not the best pay-per-view, viewing wise. So these short films, I think they're going to be a big hit. Everyone's going to go crazy. And Dana White at the post-fight press conference, I think he says, we might come back.
Ooh, that seems like a Hail Mary. Like
that is a massive prediction.
For a good surprise. Ooh.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good card.
Time up for the bust of the night, Lucas. Who's your bust?
I don't like this phrasing that we have for the biggest flop, I like to call it. My biggest bust of the night is Merab. I think he's going to look like an idiot out there.
Ooh, I was torn. I was considering Merab, but I'm going with Diego Lopez. He's in the terms of ranking, he's clearly the underdog, but somehow on the sports books, he's the favorite. And I think that he's not going to look terrible like how other busts have looked. I just think that he's going to be clear that he's on a little bit of a different level than the top guys of featherweight, and he may still be a fight or two away from the top of featherweight.
Yeah, that's totally fair. That's my other one who I was thinking of going with. The reason I picked Merab is because I think if he doesn't have lots of control time, he is just going to get completely outclassed on the feet. And there's more of a chance that he just looks bad rather than Diego Lopez. I think he's going to look decent no matter what.
Yeah.
Because it is a high up the ranking fight for him.
Time for the main event, the Hail Mary.
So for my Hail Mary prediction, I have something interesting that doesn't happen very often. So if it does hit, I'm going to be super happy. I think that Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili ends in a doctor stoppage due to the cut over the eye.
Ooh.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Because we've seen that cut. I think it could open up. Stitches just came out last week.
That still would be no KOs for me.
Yeah, that's true.
So
we could both get it right.
We could. For my Hail Mary prediction, there is not a single KO on this card.
Whoa.
It's possible. The only fight where you really could see a KO is the main event. You got to think about these prelims. It's all featherweight. I think the whole card might be featherweight and below.
And then we have that one lightweight fight.
We have one lightweight fight.
Yeah, I think Zellhuber.
Yeah. So relatively small people. And in that Zellhuber fight, I have him by decision is what I have. So I think there's a chance we don't get a single KO. I was going to go with one KO, but I was like, no, we're going Hail Mary, 0 KOs on this card.
That would be insane.
How would Dana feel at the presser?
He would probably, he'd be so pissed. He's going to get those media questions and just go off about John Jones again. All right, that does it for our UFC 306 predictions. Like Dylan said, this is not gambling advice, but we are always right. So make sure you guys hit the subscribe button, like, comment, all that stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Peace.
See ya.